Okay, I think we are live. Let's see. Yep, it's telling me we're now streaming live on Facebook. Awesome. Okay, welcome back everybody to this week's Ask Me Anything about our 2020 Utah elections coming up on November 3rd. Just again, I'm Nikki Venugopal. I'm the voting rights coordinator at the ACLU of Utah. And the wonderful Jocelyn, who's usually on to help me out with this, is busy preparing for midterms today. So that was super important. So we've got Sydney instead, which I'm super excited about. Sydney, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello, everybody. I am Sydney McKimo. I am the Southern Utah Community Outreach Coordinator. I am lucky enough to be able to work with Nikki at the ACLU and dealing with voting rights and other fun things. So I'm happy to be joining you all today.
Awesome. Well, let's just jump right in because I think we've got some questions ready to go that people have sent us. Do you want to throw the first one at me?
Yeah, we do have a great lineup today. So the first one is, when should I expect to receive my ballot?
Good question, because it is October 1st. So it is officially election month since we're voting by mail. So October 13th is when counties will start mailing ballots, which means that I would say if around October 20th you haven't received your ballot by then, I would definitely start calling your county clerk and bugging them to make sure that you get your ballot. But the way you can prevent any sort of issues with, not getting your ballot is I would go today to vote.utah.gov. I would check my voter registration and especially make sure that your mailing address is up to date so that you can feel confident that your ballot will come right to you.
I think that is a great little addition. Thank you, Nikki. Also, if I do not receive it, what should I do? I guess you kind of covered a little bit of that, but what
Awesome. I'm ahead of the game. Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll just reiterate, call your county clerk. If you don't receive your ballot, so October 13th is when the ballots will start mailing. Keep an eye on your mailbox that week, a couple of days, give it a couple of days. And then, if you're still not receiving your ballot after that, then call your county clerk. You can also go to vote.utah.gov and you can find a list of all the county clerks and find their contact information. You can also just for example, I'm in Salt Lake County, so I would Google Salt Lake County Clerk. Their website will pop right up. You can find their contact information on their website. Just give them a call. You'll probably talk to either the clerk or the deputy clerk or somebody in their office, and they will make sure that they double check that your ballot is on its way or that you should be sent a ballot, and they'll help you get it figured out. So call your county clerk if you don't get a mail-in ballot after October 13th.
Perfect. Thanks, Nikki. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be mailing their ballots in, but then there are some that aren't. And so the question is, where can I find drop-off locations?
Totally. Great question. So like you kind of mentioned, Sydney, you've got two ways to return your mail ballot. One is through the mail, obviously. That's why they call it that. But if you don't want to mail it back, you can also take it to a Dropbox location. Every county will have them. I will say, make sure you take it to a Dropbox in your county. That way you can make sure that your ballot is going to make it back to your county clerk, who is the one that, the clerk that sent you your ballot is the one that needs to get it back to count it. So anywhere in your county, find a Dropbox. You can find Dropbox locations on your county clerk's website. I will note that we've been looking at county clerk's websites and not all of them have those locations up yet on their websites. But if you go to vote.utah.gov, you can enter your information and it'll tell you where your polling places are, where local drop boxes are, and you can find that information all on there. So vote.utah.gov is a great central location for all of this information, which is awesome. Perfect. We're also working on pulling some of that info together ourselves. So stay tuned, social media audiences, and we will be posting some of that information on our Let Utah Vote Coalition website, which is letutahvote.org.
That's a great teaser, way to keep everybody looped in. So for those of us that don't want to take it to a Dropbox, but want to mail it in, when is the last day to send my ballot back by mail?
Great question, because this changed. Those of you who voted by mail in the primary recently might remember that the last day to postmark your ballot was on election day, but it is not this year. I repeat, it is not on election day. It is the day before election day. So if you want to return your ballot via the mail, you want to make sure that it gets postmarked the day before the election day. So November 2nd. November 2nd is the last day to postmark your ballot and return it through the mail. Yeah.
That one
Get excited about that one.
it threw me for a loop when I first saw that, because I remember it being like the day of the election, but now it's changed. So thank you for letting us know. Great question. All right. Now, what does it mean when we say postmarked? Like, what does postmarked mean? And even if it arrives after election day, will it still be counted?
These are amazing questions. Yeah, so postmarked is, so when the Postal Service receives it, they kind of stamp it to say like, yes, we got this and on this date. And, you know, then they do their thing as the amazing Postal Service and send the mail out to all corners of the world. So basically that means that, you know, if you are dropping your ballot in, you know, your mailbox a couple days before that postmark date, likely you're going to be just fine. It'll be postmarked in time. But if you do wait till that last day, November 2nd, and you want to return your ballot through the mail, when you go to the Postal Service, when you go to the post office, I would ask them if they can postmark it right there while you're there. And then you can just know that it's been postmarked by the deadline. But I would, you know, probably your plan A would be to return it as soon as possible. So as soon as you get your ballot in the mail after October 13th, just to be extra super confident, mail it back as soon as you can, mail it back that same week, and you'll be golden, good to go. Or take it to a Dropbox, either way.
I think that's a great backup. But you said something last week on the AMA that I thought was really great, where you said be an October voter. And it's helpful, but for those of us that procrastinate, I'm guilty. If I don't get it if I don't get it postmarked November 3rd, or I'm sorry, November 2nd, I can still drop it in the Dropbox. So that's great.
Totally.
So why do we have to sign our ballots?
This is a great question. I love that people are asking why. I feel like that's just a good question in life to ask. So the reason why we sign the outside of our ballots is those of you who've ever gone and voted in person at a polling place, right, might remember that in Utah, you do need to show certain forms of ID, whether that be like a utility bill with your name and address, or whether it's your driver's license. You have to show some form of ID to identify that it's you. Signatures is kind of how we do that sort of ID check with mail ballots in Utah. So you sign the outside of your return envelope and you send that back to your clerk. You take it to a Dropbox, and your clerk is going to compare that signature that you just signed with the signature that is on file with your voter registration record. Often that is the signature that you signed when you went to get your driver's license. So it's really important that you sign with a consistent signature, because they're going to compare those two. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly every single teeny point is exactly the same, but it needs to be reasonably similar enough so that the clerk can say, okay, we're pretty sure that this is the person who we meant to send the ballot to is the person that filled it out and signed it and sent it back. If they do end up saying, this one doesn't look similar to us, they'll flag it, and then they'll need to notify you that that your ballot has been sort of initially rejected, and give you a chance to say, no, actually, that was me. I did sign my ballot. You'll just have to sign a little affidavit and let them know, and then it'll be counted. So along those lines, the other thing that's really important, when you sign the outside of your return envelope, there are fields underneath where you can put your contact info, so your email and your phone number. Those say optional, but I'm going to really highly recommend that you fill those out, because that way you know that the clerk has your contact information and will be able to notify you if there's any sort of issue with your ballot.
Those are some really good points. I also want to say, I think it's important to be able to track your ballot after the fact, because in case they aren't able to notify you on time. So
totally. I think we got some questions about that, actually, is how you can track your ballot.
Yeah, I'm not going to skip anybody that is coming on the list, but the next question actually feeds into this really well. Is also, it says, this was from Facebook, and they said, what should I do if my signature has changed? So for example, my husband has MS and his signature has changed.
This is a really great question. So what I would say to do, my recommendation would be to call your county clerk as soon as you can. I would call your county clerk. I would explain that to them. And then, so they'll sort of tell you from their end if there's anything else they need you to do, if there's a way to sort of change your signature ahead of time. But also I would sort of reiterate again, fill out your contact info on that ballot so that they can notify you if they do feel that there's any, if they do accidentally still flag it with an issue, so that they'll notify you. But then step 3 is then track your ballot, and you'll be able to see whether or not it got counted. So you'll go to vote.utah.gov. Right in the middle of the page, it says click on track my ballot. You'll just put in your information, and it'll tell you the status of your mail ballot. So it'll tell you if they flagged it because a signature seemed to not match to them. And then if that's the case, all you'll do is just call your county clerk and clear it up with them, and they'll get your ballot counted. So when in doubt, call your clerk and track your ballot. Those are kind of the two parts to my answer to that.
I think those are really great answers. Also, I think that was the next question, is how can I track my ballot to make sure it's been received and counted? And I think you kind of covered that. Is there anything more you want to say to that point?
Just that vote.utah.gov is a magical website, and everybody should, I don't know, bookmark it on your browser or something, because that's where, you register to vote, you check your voter registration, you check track your ballot, you find your county clerk information. So I'll just say it a million more times, go to vote.utah.gov.
Perfect. Okay. So what does same day registration mean, and how does one do that?
Awesome. Yeah. So, and I think this kind of feeds in nicely with the other questions that we were answering, because we kind of went through like one option for voting is to vote by mail. And I'll say, if you can use that, I would recommend voting that way. It's safe, it's secure. We've done it many years here in Utah. We know that it's tried and tested and true. And it's the best way to make your voice heard during a pandemic. So vote by mail if you can. If you can't, however, if you do miss the voter registration deadline to get your mail ballot, which is October 23rd, you can vote in person during the early voting period, which for most counties is around October 26th through 30th, or on election day, November 3rd. And if you did miss that voter registration deadline, we have this amazing thing in Utah called same day registration. You'll also hear it called election day registration. And basically that means that you can go to a vote center in your county during early voting or on election day and register to vote and cast your vote in person at the exact same time. All you'll need to do is you'll need to go in person to that polling place. I'll say, wear your mask, please. And you'll also need to bring some ID with you. So if you've got a Utah driver's license, that's great. You also can bring 2 forms of identity that don't have your photo on them, but have your name and address. So for example, I might bring a bank statement and a utility bill. And you can also find that full list of what acceptable forms of ID are on vote.utah.gov. You'll just bring those in with you. You'll register to vote. You'll cast your ballot at the same time, and you'll be all set.
Perfect.
But you can register today and do it by mail. That's easier.
Like we said earlier, be an October voter, right? If possible.
Yeah, totally. I will say that some other organization for sure came up with that slogan, and I totally stole it, and I don't remember who it was from. So I'm sorry, whoever out there I stole that from. It's a really great slogan, and I'm going to keep using it.
Credit to you, whomever you are. Thank you so much.
It's awesome. Be an October voter.
Next question is also on Facebook. It's from Miguel M. And the question is, if you moved from another state, when will you be eligible to vote in Utah?
Good question. So this seems to be asking about eligibility requirements and specifically residency requirements for voting in Utah. So in Utah, you are eligible to vote here as a resident, as long as you've been a resident here for at least 30 days prior to the election. So November 3rd, count back 30 days. If you can call yourself a resident for those 30 days, at least, if not more, then you're set and ready to go. I will just list all the eligibility requirements. So you do need to be a United States citizen to vote in Utah. You do need to be 18 years of age or older on election day. You need to be a resident, and you need to register. I think those are most of them. I think those are most of the requirements. But yeah, so 30 days is sort of the residency requirement, and you'll just need to make sure that you're registered here.
So Miguel, if you are currently in Utah, then you are eligible as long as you meet those other criteria. And so go get registered.
Totally, yeah.
And then question from Kylo L. I hope I said that right, Kylo. Can I take my mail ballot to the polling station to drop off?
I believe in most counties you should be able to. I think a lot of them, a lot of counties have drop boxes at their like vote center, and a lot of them are like actually at the county clerk's office. I would say that some of this is just a little bit different this year because counties have some counties are getting creative with how they're doing that in-person voting. It might be curbside voting, outdoors in some way to sort of deal with the pandemic. So again, the golden rule, when in doubt, call your county clerk. So I would give them a call, ask them about that, but likely yes, if not, there's likely a drop box in the vicinity that they can point you towards. And also you can check those drop box locations again on your county clerk's website or at vote.utah.gov.
All right, so it seems like we have a couple, like two things standing out from what I'm hearing from you is go to vote.utah.gov and when in doubt, call your county clerk, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, your county clerks are the ones who are in charge of elections in your county. And so, yep, they're definitely the ones to bug with any, issues that come up, any concerns that you have. We're happy to answer questions. And when you join us here, but also, yeah, for sure, you can go straight to the source, go straight to your county clerks and ask them. So, yeah, do we have any more questions? Are we?
Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but I thought we got some really great questions. I don't see any more popping up. I don't know if you want to give it a minute more, but hey, to everybody that threw questions on there, you did a great job. Thank you so much.
Good questions. Thanks. Yeah, I guess I'll just say, I think we've seen a lot of sort of false claims and probably politically motivated false claims about vote by mail in our state flying around the internet right now. So I'll just say, I think it's important for us all to remember that, we've done vote by mail in Utah so many times now. We are way ahead of the curve nationally. We're a leader in how we run our elections with vote by mail, and that, we can trust it. It's safe, secure. It's been verified by our state elections officials, as well as our county clerks have all reported that our vote by mail systems have integrity, that they work well. Also, shout out to our local postal service people. The USPS does an amazing job here in Utah. Because we've done this so many times, they kind of know to expect exactly what's going to happen, exactly how many ballots are going to come in. So they're ready to handle that capacity. So if you're tuning in today, I would just say, reach out to your networks, anybody that that might be uncomfortable about vote by mail. Let's all remain calm and carry on, to steal a cliche phrase, another one, just stealing phrases left and right. And just know that, I'm really confident in our vote by mail here in Utah, and I think other folks should be too. And let us know if you have any more questions about that. But thanks for joining me today, Sydney.
Of course. Thanks for having me, and to Facebook world and internet world.
See you next week.